number 3 Toyota of Sergio Pianzzezola, also pretty well up in the early stages, and several of the Toyota Celica four-wheel drives entered, including one for Italian Fabrizio Tabaton. Lancia Delta Integrales as well, also competing on this event, and not, of course, quite so competitive these days. A little outpaced by the Subarus, etc. Fernando Perez in the Ford Escort Cosworth really taking the challenge to Piero Liatti, and meanwhile Gustavo Trelles there in the second of the ART run Subaru Imprezas. Back to those Lancia Deltas, and that's the number 7 car of Yves Loubet. But meanwhile, Cesar Baroni had already been in trouble with his one and had turbo problems that put him fairly well down. Fabrizio Tabaton, however, going pretty well in his Celica, and only a little bit behind Liatti. In fact, very involved in the battle with Fernando Perez. Battle for Formula 2 honours also going on in this event, but that really being dominated by the Renault Clio that we saw earlier. And the VW Golf not really featuring in this one. And so through towards the end of the first day, and still Piero Liatti enjoying quite a comfortable lead over the opposition. Into the service halt, and not too many problems for Liatti at this point.
Oui, il est très bien, il a gagné tous les spécials.
Well, it's going well. We've won all the special stages so far.
Il a fait un bon tempo et le spécial est très vite.
The stages are pretty fast, but we're pretty happy with the way it's going for us so far. Well, former European champion Liatti, so certainly the experience to deal with this sort of terrain. A demanding rally, some very twisty, tight roads as well, but that certainly seems to be suiting him well. Jose Carlos Macedo in the Renault Clio, run by Renault Portugal, and Fernando Perez, well, managing to equal Liatti's time on the 4th stage, and that moved him up into 2nd place. Fabrizio Tabaton there in 3rd position in his Toyota Celica, run by the Grafoni team. And then next up, the other of the Subarus with Gustavo Trelles. But nobody could catch Piero Liatti and Alessandro Alessandrini at this point. And so to the special stage that's actually held in the town itself. A slightly different type of stage, really, a spectator stage held at the end of the first day to provide some entertainment in Funchal, in the harbour front and along the in the centre of town. It caused quite a lot of mayhem at various points, with some of the drivers taking different routes to others. But it served to entertain the crowd and give the drivers a bit of a fun run at the end of the day. Well, on to the 2nd day then. And could anybody catch that flying Subaru up front? Jose Carlos Macedo in the Renault Clio, well, of course, running with a lot less power than the Subaru up front. The Renault Clio running to Formula 2 regulations means it has around about 230 brake horsepower, but that's up against the over 300 brake horsepower of the turbocharged four-wheel drive Subaru. Fernando Perez going well in 2nd place, but he would have some problems later on in the day with a hub nut disintegrating on him, and that dropping him down the order. Tabaton also getting into troubles later on, and that all gave Gustavo Trelles in the number 6 Subaru the chance to move up the order. Sergio Pianzzezola also moving up in the old-style Celica. With then the Lancias a little further back. This the Lancia of Frenchman Yves Loubet. But he certainly had a few problems earlier on in the day.
Ah ben la course, si tu veux, pour nous, c'était une opportunité de venir ici. Bon, on s'est
Well,
fait
it's a good race,
plaisir.
a good opportunity for us to come and compete
d'aller
here.
le plus vite possible dans les descentes. Bon, moi je savais au départ que l'auto était un petit peu techniquement par rapport aux autres devant.
And of course, the problem is with our Lancia, it's not really quite as up to date as some of the opposition we're up against.
L'opportunité de participer à Madère.
But it's a great opportunity to compete here in Madeira. So Yves Loubet enjoying his run, but certainly struggling to keep up with the likes of Piero Liatti in his Subaru. On board with Liatti, and let's see how he was managing to do it. Still keeping up the pace up front and still basically going on to win virtually every special stage. Keeping up the performance of Subaru, and recently in World Championship rallying has been so strong as well, with Colin McRae having won in New Zealand and things going well for them in the Asia Pacific Series. Liatti looking smooth, controlled and really under no pressure from the opposition. Well, the number 12 Escort, the top Portuguese driver, Rui Conchao. And the Golf of Amerigo Campos, another of the Portuguese crews entered in the event. Jorge Bica in his Lancia Delta Integrale. And sliding the Toyota around nicely, Sergio Pianzzezola, still working his way up to the top 10. The slightly newer car of Fabrizio Tabaton. And Tabaton working his way up in the order as well. Except for that broken hub nut, he could well have had a good second place here in Madeira. Well, Macedo able to match the four-wheel drive supercharged, turbocharged cars up front, but nonetheless very much the man to beat in Formula 2. No real opposition for him, and the Renault Clio Maxi so well suited to these tight and twisty roads as well. And Macedo certainly going very quickly. Gustavo Trelles, the Uruguayan, well, gradually working his way up the order with no major problems for his car, and coming up into second place. But the win going to Piero Liatti in the other of the Subarus. A dominant victory and his first win in Madeira as well. So Liatti the winner, Trelles in second, Jose Carlos Macedo in that Renault Clio taking third.